I'm Ahmed Altahan. I'm electrical engineer, retired, and I do research about the start of the universe and the theories comes out about it, and find in my research what does the religions tell about them, precisely the Quran. The theories that are well known today about how the matter existed and this universe started. One of them is the virtual particles, that theory that came out by Lawrence Krauss, Professor Lawrence Krauss. He said the virtual particles, they can pop in and pop out the vacuum. The vacuum has a weight and is not empty because of these virtual particles pop in and then pop out, in and out all the time until they become stable in or become stable out. The other theory is by Professor Alan Guth, who predicts that negative pressure subparticles with inflation could produce matter. These two theories speaks about how matter existed for the first time, and maybe there are more, but the most well-known, these two right now. Whenever these subparticles come inside this our universe, they are like a primordial soup, and they behave with their quantum mechanics until they come atoms. With the quantum mechanics, that means they behave like matter or particles and behave like waves. Scientists found out like even the subparticles in the atom, like the proton, electron, and the neutron, they behave similarly to the solar system, like how the planets turn around the sun. So we have the electrons turn around the nucleus in a similar way. And there are orbits, and they can move from one orbit to another by losing from their subparticles, like the quarks or muons or whatever, lose from them or gain from them, producing rays. This is how they behave as a matter and how they behave as waves. We have the photons of the light. They behave in a similar way, but the photons of the light can divide into, or can pass into 2, 3, 4 holes altogether and collect back at a certain point. So you can see them 1 or 2 when they go through 3 holes, but they are one. In the end, they collect back to one at a center or a certain point. This is how, briefly, how the scientists imagine today how the universe started, how the matter existed. and all of this just like creating the quarks and the muons and the positrons or whatever, they existed before the Big Bang or at the Planck era. They found out about the positrons and they found out about the antimatter. The antimatter collides with the matter and annihilate each other, and the positron cannot exist by itself but could be by some collisions made artificially. This is the science point of view, but now I want to describe what the Quran tells about this stage of creation, how the universe started. First of all, the galaxies, everything in the galaxies, its skies and its matter, all of them existed before the Big Bang. Allah created them, made them in categories. Every of them has its properties or features in, and they were like dead, motionless. They also have which is named as ghosts. The ghosts are some kind of energy attached to them, but this energy is turned off before the Big Bang and turned on when they come in when the Big Bang started. Like they are the reason why they are motionless with their properties in until the Big Bang starts. When the Big Bang starts, they can be active, can have their motions, have their properties in, and behave like what the scientists know about them. They existed motionless with these properties in and the ghosts attached to them. It is like a heavy, dark cloud loaded with water, but unable to let any drop of that water to spill out of it. The next happened is that it is an example like this cloud. This cloud loosened and started to spill the matter, the created primary things of everything in this universe, started to spill them to the place where made for them, where the primordial water was in. Besides the skies and the earth of the galaxies, there were categories of the primary things of the humans, primary things of the angels, primary things of the mobile creatures. They existed motionless, have their properties in, like you may know them in the name of the DNA. They have them in, but were not active, motionless, until this cloud loosened and started to spill the primary things into the place where these the primordial water existed in. Now, when they came inside or spilled out of that cloud, they became as water, primordial water, as described in the Quran. And from that water, every living creature existed. That means, as I said, the primary things of the humans, primary things of the angels, primary things of the mobile creatures, primary things of the cattle existed with their RNAs or properties completely created in, motionless, and when they were spilled to the place where the primordial water existed, they started to be alive. That's because of the ghosts. The ghosts were turned off when the cloud was, as I said, the cloud is an example. The real thing is something else that held them together. Let's say the reality is something else, not the cloud, but some other creation that made them like that. So when they come in as primordial water, the ghost turns on. When they turn on, these primary things will have their properties in, like they will have them active, and they can behave unlike before when they were unable to spill. When their properties became active and they started to behave in the primordial water, they were too many. Like the skies and the earth of the galaxies were so many primary things, plus the living creatures, the angels, the humans, the cattle, and the mobile creatures. All of them, they had their properties active. When they became active and part of the primordial water, there was a precision stage. They had everything of the matter created, the primary things of the skies and the earth, which are the galaxies, the humans, the angels, all the primary things of these things had their properties in, but there was a precision made in addition to what they have. For example, the cattle and the humans had their pairs in, like that primary thing broken into parts. They were attached to each other or very close to each other, so they became pair. The cattle, the same thing. But the mobile creatures, they remain the same, like as the primary thing, and they could be pairs by matching with other primary things existed in the primordial water. The angels, there were things added to them which were becoming messengers and had the wings. These primary things, now they are mixed in the primordial water. Everyone has his properties in. We come back to the primary things of the galaxies. They are active now. They can go along with other primary things, or they can go opposite to them and annihilate each other. Every of them finds a similar primary thing that has resonance with and become become together. Others cannot find resonance and stay away from each other, and others, they have the opposite properties between them, cannot match and cannot live along, so they just collide and annihilate. This is how the Quran describes this stage. When that happens before the Big Bang. So far, there is no inflation. So that means the theory that Professor Alan Guth, I think, doesn't work in this case, because according to the Quran, the inflation started after the annihilation of the matter and antimatter. The virtual particles, it is just to tell that is self-creating. There is no creator behind them. Because science doesn't see what's behind our universe, they don't know what is behind it, so they say there is nothing there. They have to think this way, like find out a way that the matter or the universe created itself. But in the Quran, it tells they were created before the Big Bang, before the Planck era, and there was an entity that holds them tight without making them spill, and a crack happened in that entity that made all of them spill, and when they spilled in, the ghost turned on, and when the ghost turned on, they had their weights. Every category of these primary things weighted differently than the others. The heaviest was the super forces, the four forces that initiated the universe, or that were the principal thing for the skies, followed by the primary things of the matter. The primary things of the matter were less weight than that one. Separated between the super force and the primary things of the matter were separated by a stormy wind that comes on top of the super force and under the primary things of the matter, or the primordial water. The primordial water contained everything, including the primary things of the living creatures. When annihilating each other happened between the matter and the antimatter, science says that's it. They produced a spark and just a puff, and that's it. They were gone, nothing there. According to Quran, that is not true. When the annihilation happened, two things produced out of that spark. There was an accumulative spark wind blows. Like every puff happens and the light of the spark goes off, a wind initiates. And this wind accumulates every annihilation between two matter and antimatter particles happen. They started very low, accumulated until they became very strong. This accumulation, with it started the Big Bang. On the other hand, there was a residue after the collision and annihilation. They left a residue, which is like in the Quran, we know them as the foam. That foam later, after the Big Bang, became the smoke. Science has no clue about that foam, has no clue about this accumulative wind. The accumulative wind, also known as the sterilized wind blows. Why sterilized? Because the annihilation of their sources, like there is no matter or antimatter that caused them exists. There only a remainder of them, which is the foam. So far, this is what the Quran tells about this stage, the Planck stage of the creation of this universe. And I don't know, it could be compared with the quantum mechanics that the scientists working on today. And there is a clue about the strings. Their face shape of existence was like strings. But when they, as a primordial water, unbehave, it is telling the same as what scientists finding out. They are like coming along with each other. They are against each other and annihilate. Everything else is told the same thing, except the science doesn't know about the existence of the primary things of the living creatures at such a stage. Like they don't know about the primary things of the humans, the angels, and the cattle, and the mobile creatures. This is briefly how can I explain the Quranic point of view compared to the science point of view or predictions about this stage. Hopefully this will be useful to the people who like to know about different ideas than the science is giving, or maybe the religions, how they explain such a stage. And thank you for listening. Thank you very much.